And so then she brings out this little info thing for a uterine biopsy called Receptiva DX. And you'll hear me talk about this all the time because this is what helped me conceive. This was my missing puzzle piece. This is what got Shepherd in my belly growing healthy and hopefully, God willing, Earthside in April. And I just, like, if I could work for them and spread the news about this biopsy to every woman and IVF clinic in the world, I would. Like, they are, I just owe them everything, and my doctors. And so she pulls this out. So I'm going to explain briefly what this biopsy does, what it reads, and what this is. They go in, and it's not the most comfortable, fun thing ever, but it is quick, and they take a biopsy of your uterine lining, kind of a chunk, which I know that sounds gross, but it's a small little piece of tissue that is sent off to the lab that Receptiva uses, and they read it for a gene called BCL6. So every single woman, even if you are 80 years old or you are 15, everyone has an expression of the gene BCL6 in their uterus. That is normal. However, normal levels are 1.4 and under. If they are over that, that means excess inflammation, usually linked to endometriosis. It can be linked to other things too, but that's like the most common. It can also test for infection like endometritis that I touched on briefly last night. I did not have that, but it can test for like everything all at once. So this tests for that gene. If you have an overexpression, you have back to what my results were, because I didn't even do it. At this point, I was just so flooded with information and seeing the words IVF that I was just like, whoa. So honestly, at that time, and I think that this, everyone goes through if you are doing treatments of not thinking you'll ever end up doing IVF. So I went back to my old clinic here in Knoxville, told them the information, and my old doctor claimed to think that he did not need that I needed this done, or the meds to treat it, and that the surgery should have taken care of it. And I think he even said, like, even 5 years from now, I think the inflammation was taken care of with surgery. I knew in my gut what was happening. And so go in for the second blood draw, and I just did not even want to go. And sure enough, I was miscarrying for a third time. And so this was now early November of 2020. And that was my third miscarriage. As you can imagine, I was just pissed at this point. Like, I was not even, of course, I was sad and devastated, and I cried so hard for days. But it was almost more of like an angry cry. Like, I was so angry that I couldn't even speak. I was just like, something is going on. Why is it being missed? Why have I spent thousands at a clinic that I thought was going to give me answers? You know, why am I even here? I'm not getting any help. So we go in for the follow-up, and I ask about the Receptiva biopsy that I was told about a few months prior from my second opinion in Chattanooga. And I was pretty much told, you know, I really don't think that is the issue. And I would have, if we would have stayed there, I would have kept miscarrying, kept transferring and spending thousands of dollars, and I would have never come home with a baby. And so I knew in my gut what I had to do. I was overwhelmed to change clinics and kind of start over. Once, I just felt so much peace and felt like I was with a doctor, that I was finally, you know, being listened to and heard, and there was so much more compassion and just expertise, and their clinic was much more advanced as far as all their lab, first of all, just everything. And I just felt like this is where we're supposed to be, to at least attempt to grow our family. And at least I'll know that I'm at the best of the best, and, you know, I will do everything that I can, and if not, we'll circle back and go from there. So meet with my new doctor at TRM. We do the biopsy for the inflammation that I shared about earlier to test for that gene that I was just knew in my gut that was it, and she did too. And we also did another one just to, you know, kill two birds with one stone. So that was January was the biopsy. So a few days later, I get the results in my email, and guess who was right? I stated earlier, a normal level of the BCL6 gene is 1.4 or under for a baby to be able to implant, grow, thrive, all that great stuff. Mine was 3.6, with 4 being the highest, and so I had a less than 10% chance of a live birth with no treatment. Once I treated it, I had upwards of a 70 to 72, I think she said, % chance of success in a live birth. So 10% or less than 10% to over 70, kind of a big gap there. So pretty much I would have never come home with a baby, more than likely, if I would have stayed and not trusted my gut and done this biopsy. And so that was my answer. And I was so happy and so relieved. And I just felt like, you know, all my feelings were fully validated. And I just knew that something was being missed. And so despite me having surgery for the endo, I still had lots of inflammation going on that was caused by it. I'm not sure if it was because I had already had the surgery and my endo was quite mild. There was no sense in putting my body through a major surgery again and creating more scar tissue. And so we decided on the medically induced menopause. And so what that does is it completely rids your body of estrogen, pretty much puts you into menopause, just like you would if you were going through it on your own. And you get hot flashes, weight gain, the full shebang. And what that does is when it pulls all the hormones pretty much out of your body and dries you up, it helps that inflammation kind of go down and helps the gene reset in your lining to a normal level. And so I did a 3-month Lupron shot, which was really not fun. And on top of that, also Femera every single day, which further depleted the estrogen levels in my entire body. It was a long 3 months of constantly sweating and bad moods, mood swings. I did that from, March 15th, I believe I got my shot. It was 3 months worth of meds, like in one shot, and you also can do the once a month, but it was just easier for me as an out of town to just do the one-time shot that has 3 months of meds that's time released. So I did that in March, and then I went back on June 1st for baseline, and unfortunately I couldn't transfer that month like I had planned because my hormones were like a little bit off. It's hard for your body to bounce back from menopause, and it was weird going through that at 27, but hey, it worked and I would do it again, and I may have to for our other embryos. It just depends. I'll probably do the biopsy again just to be extra safe. But I did that, so ended up transferring July 22nd, and that is what finally helped me not only get pregnant but keep a pregnancy. And so now I am 22 weeks on Saturday, and I just could not be more still just so. So a little side note to add to the so much fun that I had in 2020, sarcasm if you can't tell. After my third loss, which was in November, Heath and I both got COVID. We're super sick, missed Thanksgiving, we're isolated, which was like the worst time for me to be isolated away from family. Then as soon as I got better from COVID, I was in a terrible car accident that really should have either killed me or left me fully paralyzed from the waist down. And I don't even think I cried after the car wreck. Thankfully I wasn't alone, because I was just like, what else could possibly happen? So COVID, car wreck after my third miscarriage, then somehow get pregnant naturally after that, and then miscarry a 4th time. So all of this happens before the end of 2020. And then after that is when I started with my new clinic. So it was just, man, I feel pretty unstoppable after everything that I've been through to get here. Back to what I was saying, my transfer, of course, worked, went back for beta, and it needed to be at least a 50, the blood work and the hormones, and I think my first one was 104, and that was the best that it had ever been. And then I went back 48 hours later and needed to double, and it tripled, and I think it was like almost 400 at that point.